So in our ethnography, we investigated the differences in schools around Jeffco to find out how academics and social aspects are different and how that can make a difference in the kids overall.
And we mainly compared Ralston Valley to the other high schools because the people we chose to interview attend or have attended Ralston Valley. Plus, CJ and I have both attended Ralston Valley for 4 years.
What's your name?
I'm Will Cripps.
Where do you go to school?
Ralston Valley.
Okay. Are you in any AP classes?
Yeah, I'm in AP Chemistry and AP Calculus.
And what are those classes like?
They're pretty tough. I have a lot of homework in both of them.
How do they compare to like a regular class?
Mostly it's the workload. Obviously the workload is big. The amount of content that you have to actually learn that's on the test is a lot greater of a percentage than it is in on regular classes, and also pretty much the vernacular of the students in those classes.
Right. Do you have so how many hours of homework do you think you have for just say AP Chem?
My average night is about 2 hours of
just for AP Chem?
Mm-hmm.
And what about the math class, AP Calc?
That's a little bit less. That's only about an hour.
But is the homework in those classes does it matter? Is it important?
For your grades, a lot of it is mostly just completion, but there's so much of it, so much of our homework is so important.
So it's the understanding aspect of it, you really need to understand what you're doing.
You have to understand it, otherwise you're gonna fall behind if you don't. And it's a college level course, that's the way it is. It's working, everything you learn is important.
What's the environment like in that class compared to a regular class?
You mean between the students?
Mm-hmm. Between the students, the teacher, when you walk in, just everything.
Well, the teacher, first of all, I guess, is a lot more demanding out of every student, a lot more expected. There's so many more expectations for me when I'm in an AP class versus a regular class, for just as far as homework goes and studying and going into ICE and asking questions. Even if I have a B, I am still generally expected to go into ICE for those classes, just to ask questions to make sure I'm keeping up. As far as students to students,
do you feel pressure from other students?
There's so much pressure from other students. So
what is that pressure? Who creates it, and why is there pressure between students?
It's a competition. There's somebody who has to set the curve, I guess is the way to put it. But it's also more than that. It's also it's kind of a confidence booster when you can push somebody else down, when you know that you're smarter than somebody and you can make fun of them.
Really?
You want to get a better grade than that person. You want to understand it better than that person because you're not the worst person in the class.
Do you feel judged? Say you were to get a question wrong in AP Chem, do you think they would judge you?
You mean?
Or there would be some backlash from it. There'd be some.
Yeah, and
down from it.
Honestly, most of it's just there's a lot of sarcasm between students to students. They pretend like they don't mean it, but they actually mean it. There's just a lot of stuff like that it just kind of beats down on you.
Could you give me an example?
I remember I just spoke up in class one time and got it completely wrong. Got what Mr. Silk was asking a question in the whole class just during notes, and I just said something completely wrong. And I remember one kid just completely just said, "Oh, what are you doing in here? You don't belong in here. This is too hard for you." Just all that stuff.
So when you're in that environment, and it's kind of it sounds like a judgmental environment in a sense. When you feel that pressure, does it help or does it take away from your learning?
For me, it takes away from my learning because there's so much pressure that shouldn't be there.
So what's the main difference with the kids and the environment between A West and RV? How is it different with the schoolwork and or I guess for the kids? How's it different?
Well, A West is a whole is just a laid back environment, like socially and academically. Kids there, I'd say, are like more approachable and less cliquey, like being in their own separate groups.
Do you feel like you don't get judged as much when you're at A West? And people
Yeah,
kinda
like no one's like talking about you bad behind your back most of the time.
yeah. How do the kids like approach the schoolwork?
Well, the schoolwork there, I'd say, is a lot. Well, the curriculum they take a lot more slow. Like they make sure everyone understands it a little bit better and don't rush through everything like I felt RV did. And
Like,
I
did you feel like overwhelmed?
Oh yeah, RV really like.
Why?
Just because like you would start a unit and like a week later you'd be done with it, start another unit, and then in the middle of the week they'd have a test on the last unit, and you didn't even remember what they taught you because you were trying to.
So I definitely know what you're
saying. They
saying.
cram it down your throat too fast.
Yeah. How do the students respond to that? Like, do you think the students do like better? Like, how do they do compared to
I think
how the
students at AOS don't really take as much time into their schoolwork for sure, but I think that they think it's pretty like easy for the most part. Like,
do you hear a lot of kids like getting good grades, or like do you hear?
You hear a lot of everything, just like RV. Like,
Yeah.
Kids get bad grades, kids get good grades. Like,
Do you think that like the kids at A West think it's like easier?
yeah, but then
Or like
they
what I
don't-
mean by like the general population thinks it's easier.
I would think
Whereas
so.
like kids at RV, they're like, yeah, like it's kind of hard, you know, because I know that you coming from RV to A West, it's obviously going to be easier.
Yeah, and I have that. I could base it off RV. Like they
Right.
can't compare anything because most of them haven't come from another school. So
Yeah.
I think they think it's pretty easy.
Like, what is like the environment like, or like in the classroom, just per se, like in the classroom?
I don't know. Like I'd say kids are a little more unfocused in class and stuff like that.
Don't you feel like kids at Ralston Valley, like they always kind of have to be like,
I feel like they're pushed more at RV, like to try harder, like for sure. But like
there's more
just,
motivation.
yeah, as a whole, like from the teachers and parents.
So what's your name?
Dominic Pacheco.
Where do you go to school?
Arvada West.
Are you in any AP classes?
Yeah, biology and English.
How are those classes? Are they pretty hard?
They're not much harder, but they're like more work, I guess.
Like how much more work do you have?
Compared to like my regular classes, like probably easily 30 more minutes more of homework every night.
Okay. Is like the environment different in those kind of classes? Like, are the kids like how would you say the kids act in those AP classes compared to like how they act in regular classes?
They're like more serious, and a lot of the kids are like more intelligent, I guess.
Like, how are the kids at A West?
Um,
Like, what is your general overview of like the kids at A West?
they're all pretty friendly, easy to get along with. Like you fit in no
Yeah.
matter what. There's like variety of different groups, and I don't know. It's just like everyone's like together, I guess. Kind of.
Do you think that's different than the kids that like go to Ralston Valley? Like, do you know kids from Ralston Valley? Are you friends with any of them?
Yeah, I went to middle school with a lot of kids that go to Ralston Valley, and I don't know.
Are
Like
they different?
it just seems like it's like you have to kind of be something at RV to like fit in.
Really?
Like you have to play a sport or like be rich or yeah, like A West, everyone like you're friends with like everyone pretty much.
Like in the classroom, are the kids like laid back?
Yeah, like everyone like knows each other. They talk to each other. Like they all communicate.
Would you ever say that you get judged on your grades, like in class?
By other students or
Yeah.
I don't know. They really don't really know like your grades, I guess.
Yeah.
But kids in AP are like more serious about their grades.
Right. Do you feel pressure from other kids in AP classes?
No, not really, cause like it's basically like your own pace, kind of.
Yeah. Do you ever feel like overwhelmed at A West?
Not really. Like I'm pretty good at like keeping all my work together and stuff, so it's pretty easy.
Are there?
Nathan Scott,
Where do you go to school?
McLean High School.
And did you used to go to RV?
Yeah, I went there Freshman and sophomore year.
Okay. What is the kind of material that you guys learn at McLean compared to like Ross and Valley? Like,
It's
do
more.
you think like the stuff you learn at McLean is like relevant or more relevant?
I think it's more relevant to what we learn. It's not just sit down, memorize a bunch of math problems or a bunch of like logical fallacies for English that really are gonna never help you.
Right.
It's more like getting out and learning workplace experience and stuff like that.
What do you guys do? Like, what is some of like? Can you give me an example of like some of the stuff that you guys do?
For our Friday classes, they're elective classes, and I've been taking a field trip the last 3 weeks, and we've gone to different workplaces like a hotel or Coors Tech to learn about how they operate there.
So like, what do you guys do when you do that?
We take a tour, usually do a couple activities, and they tell us about what they do there, job opportunities, how much they pay, stuff like that.
That's sick. Did you transfer from from a different school?
I did. I moved from Conifer.
Okay. How was Conifer compared to Ross and Valley, like in general?
Conifer is a much smaller school. There's only about 800 students. The students, they act a lot different. When I moved, I was like, oh man, the students at Ross and Valley are more obedient to what is done than at Conifer, where it was just like, half the class didn't do their homework, and then at Ross and Valley it was like 1 or 2 people.
How are the academics different from Conifer to like RV? Like, are they harder? Or how are they different?
Like the curriculum, they're a lot slower. So instead of doing like, for instance, in math, when it's like a chapter every single day, it was at Conifer, it was a chapter every week. So it was much slower.
Do you think that's better for you? Do you think it's more beneficial to your learning when it's slower or when it's faster?
For me, mostly because math is not, my strong subject. It was a lot easier to understand it because I went into more depth with each one instead of being like, oh, you get it? All right, next one.
Right. So do you think that the teachers help the students?
At Conifer, they were more open to, really slowing down and helping you, and at Rawson, they're like kind of expecting you to already know that.
Right.
So when I moved, it was like, oh, you don't know this already? I'm like, no, we were like 6 chapters behind you guys. I don't understand this.
How's like the workload for the teachers at Conifer compared to Ross and Valley? Because it sounds like there's a lot more work at RV. And how do you think that affects the teachers, and then from the teachers to the students?
I think since the teachers have more work, they're more consumed with that than, individual students that need help. So like going into ICE, you go into math and there's, 20 plus kids who need help, and
And you probably don't even get help when you
half the time it's like, go look on the website. It's like, okay, well, I've been on the website, I need the one-on-one explanatory for it.
Right. Do you ever feel judged by your academic performance?
I mean, at times, just because...
like, do you feel like a judgment from other kids?
Sometimes, just because, Conifer, I wasn't at the level Ross and Valley was. So I was behind in, math and physics, and so I had to play catch-up and then learn also what they were learning. So, wasn't doing the best, and so people were kind of looking at me like, oh, why isn't she getting this? She should kind of know this. And I'm like, it's not that I'm, stupid, I just never learned this.
So in our ethnography, we wanted to figure out the differences in schools and how that affects the kids. And I think what we figured out is that it's not the school that affects the kids, it's the kids and the environment that they come from that makes the school what it is. And so what we found out through our interviews is that, some stereotypes that we might have might not be true. Every school is geared towards a different goal. And I think, like with Ross and Valley, we figured out that a lot of the work is geared to prepare you for college. And same thing with A West, but they might just do it in a different way because they have different kids. And with McLean, we figured out that they don't really do a whole bunch of schoolwork. They're geared more towards getting prepared for the workforce. And I think that's because of the environment that the kids come from, the economic status. Nathan said that a lot of kids from McLean are in the lower class,
And I think that also has to that like their life affects how they do in school because they might not have they might not have all the accommodations that we did.
We learned from Will Cribbs when we interviewed him, like, it seems like kids at RV take school like a lot more seriously than most other schools.
Yeah.
Right? So,
with
like,
the different pressures.
Yeah, like he said, like in some of his AP classes, like it's literally like a competition, like who can get the better grade.
Right.
And like then we interviewed Dom, and he's also in AP classes, but he's only been to A West, right?
Yeah, he's only been to A West.
And he said that his AP classes there was almost no competition in them. It was just almost like a regular class, but just the work was a little bit more rigorous,
Mm-hmm.
So no school is really better than another. It might be better than another for a specific,
for a specific person, like
right,
Spencer,
yeah.
like it sounded like with Spencer and Nathan. They didn't really like RV, and they went to a different school, and now it seems like they actually enjoy going to school. So I mean, for you guys at least, like if you don't like your school, obviously it's a little late now since we're seniors in the second semester, but for future reference for college, like if you don't like your college, like maybe it's not the right college for you.
Mm-hmm.
Contrary to what you think, like it might, and if you go to a different college, it might be better for you. It's just something to keep in mind. But yeah, thanks you for watching our video, guys.
Yeah, thanks for watching.
Peace out.